G'day there guys, it's Connie here again from Marking Industries, and we are back with some more stories from Reddit. As always, if you enjoyed these videos, be sure to hit like and subscribe, and also the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Alrighty, let's get right into it. Alrighty folks, this one was posted on a couple different subreddits. It's written by user Educational Army, and it's titled, I'm the kid of one of those travelling RV families online, and I hate them for it every day. My parents decided when I was only around 7 years old, far too young to get an opinion on anything, to pack us up and move into an RV to travel around the US. My dad works online and my mum makes content online. She's not huge by any means, but big enough that we get recognised sometimes, and big enough that I've had a camera shoved in my face for as long as I can remember. For my privacy's sake, I won't say anything else on that, and I'm using a throwaway account because I've gotten enough attention already and I'm sick of it. I sleep in a tiny bunk bed that I outgrew years ago, and the other bunk is the only space I have to put anything I own. I don't even have a room, just a curtain, and thank God I'm an only child, or else I would have to share the small space I have already. I was homeschooled for most of my education, and then switched to online school at my own insistence for high school. I'm an 18-year-old girl. I don't have a single friend in person, because the longest I've ever stayed anywhere is a month. I don't have a job and no way to get one because of not being stationary unless I find one online, which also means I have no way to move out and get away from them. I've had conversations with them about all of this countless times, and they're so delusional and genuinely believe that a nomadic existence is the best way to live, so why would I never need anything else? I hate them for treating me like some pet they can just drag along in their plans rather than their child. I hate traveling. I don't like heat, I hate dealing with bugs, and I'm so sick of hiking. I can't wait for the day that I finally figure out a way to get away from them with their morning hikes and cameras in my face. I've travelled around the US, yeah, but God forbid I want to have a normal life, go to college, or maybe even make some friends. That's asking too much. Yeah, it makes the parents sound pretty selfish, doesn't it? Especially when you got a kid this age, like they want to live their life. They deserve the chance to be a normal teenager. Let's go to the comments. I can't even imagine how lonely that must be. Do you have other family you could go stay with? Opie says, not that I know of, unfortunately. Currently my plan is to try to figure out making some sort of income online and save up so I can get an apartment, and I'm talking with someone I've known online for a long time, and maybe being roommates to help with costs for both of us. Going to college is perhaps the easiest way out, but maybe not the cheapest. However, certainly a good step forward for multiple reasons. Opie says, I'm definitely looking into it, but I'm worried about it because with the way I was homeschooled, I was very behind academically and struggled a lot in high school. I was just happy I was able to do an actual online high school program rather than homeschooling. Ironically, if you were to start creating content about getting away from your hipster parents, you'd probably gain a lot of attention. Opie says, honestly, I've considered it just for the purpose of spreading awareness, but it didn't seem smart to me for a few reasons. Firstly, it didn't seem like a long-term solution. I don't think the content would be all that interesting. Once my story is told, there isn't any other real content there. There's only so much time you can talk about the same thing without it getting repetitive and boring. Plus, I would have to be in a stable position enough to feel comfortable talking about it and have an out just in case things went sideways. But more importantly, I've already had my life plastered onto the internet from such a young age. I don't think it's worth giving up the one aspect of my life that hasn't been published publicly. Another comment says, 1-800-RUNAWAY provides a list of programs that will provide housing and supportive services. We help people like you every day. Yeah, so a few options there, but easier said than done. Okay, onto an update 9 days later. Hello. Barely over a week ago, I made a post talking about my very negative experience living in an RV with my parents for around 10 years now. Despite it being such a short time since I've posted it, a lot has changed for me since then. I don't know how many people here would be interested in an update on my situation, but I know quite a few people were very concerned and would probably appreciate an update, so here it is. Also, fair warning, this is a fairly lengthy post. I have a tendency to ramble, so there's sort of a TLDR at the end. I had a lot of people give me really helpful advice, resources, as well as even offers to try to help personally, some being questionable, admittedly, but a majority being genuinely concerned, wanting to try to help, and I very much appreciate that. It was slightly overwhelming, to be honest, and I ended up not responding to a lot of people, so you'll all have to forgive me for that. But even if I didn't respond much, I have been doing research on a lot of the information people gave me. Something that stood out to me was people asking if I had any family I could stay with, to which I had to respond, not that I know of, because I don't have anyone on my dad's side of the family, and my mum's strictly no contact with her family. I don't know if they were alive, if they cut her off, if she cut them off, or if even any details about them, and my mum had never wanted to talk about it. What information I did have was my mum's maiden name, which is pretty uncommon where she was born, which in terms of trying to find family can actually get you surprisingly far, I've come to realise. I've always had a slight hatred for the internet because I never had any choice in my life being public knowledge, and I know that once something is out there, it's out there. But for the first time, I'm actually real grateful for the internet. I was able to find some information on my mother's side of the family, and specifically was able to find my grandma's Facebook account, though it did take me some effort. After a lot of stressing on how to approach messaging her, if I even should, as well as potential outcomes, I messaged her explaining my mum's life, who I was, and my situation. I won't go into details onto why my grandma and my mum are no contact, because that's not my story to share, but my grandma was appalled that she has a granddaughter she didn't even know about, and even more so the way in which her daughter raised me. I found out I have an aunt and an uncle, both of which my grandma told them about me and my situation. I've been in pretty much constant contact with all of them since just learning about each other. All of them want to get me out of this living situation with my parents, and luckily with me being 18 now, it's actually possible. Again, I don't feel entirely comfortable going into details, but I have arrangements to go stay with my aunt, who lives in a big city on the west coast that had a lot of potential opportunities for me to start college, or whatever I see fit, which I do plan on figuring out college, happy to announce. My uncle has kids, but my aunt lives on her own and has a spare bedroom, which she has no problem letting me stay in for as long as necessary. I have a train ticket scheduled and purchased by my aunt, and enough money to get to the station. I'm talking with my family, still feels weird to type currently, and trying to plan out the details like how or if I'm going to tell my parents. My mum doesn't know any information on where any of her family lives, so even if I were to tell my parents who I'm going to live with, they wouldn't know where I was specifically. Someone pointed out that if I did leave without telling them, I should leave a note or some form of proof that I left willingly, so if I do opt out of a conversation, I'm planning on either leaving a note or filming a video explaining my plans and why I'm leaving, which would be kind of ironic, wouldn't it? Regarding my mum's filming, I've been very quiet around my parents and just refusing to talk when the camera is on, but neither one of them has mentioned it yet so far, luckily. Also, speaking of my mum's content, I would like to very much emphasize something quickly. Almost everyone was genuinely trying to help, but I had a few people replying trying to guess who I was. Luckily, the few I saw were basically torn to shreds and ended up deleting their comments. I also had a few people who messaged me privately trying to make a guess at who I am, which at least that's not public, I guess. Although I can understand being curious, I posted anonymously with very little personal information for a reason. As I stated in my previous post, I've gotten enough attention and I'm very sick of it. I would very much appreciate it if you guys can respect that. Even if you think you might know who I am, please, please, please don't make public guesses and understand that I don't want this to be even more public information tied to my name. Very long story short, I have set plans to leave as well as a safe place to go with my aunt once I do, and very much appreciate you people for being so willing to help. If you had told me not even 2 weeks ago that not only would I have a plan to move away from my parents, but contact with family members I didn't even know existed, I don't think I would have believed it. I'm currently not planning on making another post updating this, but wanted to let anyone who is concerned about me to not worry. Genuinely, thank you. Oh, now it's turned into an escape plan. Let's read some more comments. Be careful, you don't really know your mum's family. I know it seemed like an out, just be careful. Opie says, I absolutely will be. Why my mum isn't in contact with them makes total sense, and none of it was their fault, plus they were able to send me evidence of that, but despite that I definitely don't know them personally yet. My train out isn't scheduled immediately or anything, and I'm going to continue talking with them until then, but they do seem to be genuinely concerned and trustworthy. Plus my aunt who I'll be staying with seemed super nice, and we've already figured out that we have certain things in common. Oh, and I forgot to mention earlier, as I said in the post, I'm planning on going to college because that's a more obtainable option for me now. And I'm hoping to figure out living in dorms, so realistically, I won't be staying with my aunt for that long once I work that out. You can't really know they're being truthful. You should ask your mother why she stopped communicating with them without telling her you started and get her side of the story. Opie says, my mum 100% refuses to talk about her family. That's the reason I didn't have any contact with them in the first place and didn't even know about my aunt and uncle. But I'm confident they're being truthful about it because I was literally shown proof and some of it was literally court ordered. I do not recommend making a video. Your parents will use it for content. Write a note at most. Keep it simple though. Opie says, I realistically don't plan on filming a video. I think I was just feeling petty and upset thinking about it all, which just led to thinking about drastic ideas of what I should do for telling my parents. Video definitely isn't a good idea if I don't just tell them myself. Opie replies to a downvoted commenter. Question, have you ever seen the Harry Potter movie scene where his room is under the stairs and thought to yourself, wow, he actually has enough room to sit up in bed and a door? I have multiple times actually. I'm very willing to abandon them to not have to feel like that anymore. Ha ha ha, great analogy. Listen, could you do me a favor please? Whatever the name of the town you're going to, call the local police or sheriff station on a non-emergency number, ask for the community liaison officer, and then briefly introduce yourself. Explain that you are 18, leaving a family situation which is not healthy, and going to stay with a relative you have not previously met. Give the officer your contact info, and tell him or her that you just want somebody that you trust to know where you are and to please give you a wellness check in a couple of weeks, and that you will stop in and let them know how you are a couple of weeks following that. Agree on 2 innocent code words for your wellness and future conversations, one which, when dropped into the conversation, means something is wrong, please get me out of here, and the other which means everything is just fine at present. Does this sound comfortable for you? Opie says, that's a really good idea actually, thank you. Now onto a new update, 2 months later. Hello, it's been a while and I wanted to check in on here to hopefully give a few people some peace of mind. In my last update I explained that I'd gotten in contact with my mother's side of the family and had a place to go stay. I can proudly announce that I did it and I'm in a safe place now, totally away from my parents, with absolutely zero contact. My aunt is an absolute angel, truly. She's so kind and that's not even including my grandma and uncle. When I first got here, my aunt, as well as my grandma, took me out on a little shopping spree, bought me clothes, decor, and furniture for my room, because I have one of those now, and honestly, anything they thought I would need. My uncle has introduced me to my cousins. He has a younger son and a daughter who's very close in age to me, and I would say that we've become friends. I've been able to go out and do a lot of fun little things with her. My aunt is currently helping me research colleges near us, but has reassured me I can do everything at my own pace, and there really is no rush. That her home will always have a spot for me. My aunt in general is such a cool person. She's someone I very quickly have started to look up to and have gotten close to. The more time we spend together, the more we learn that we actually have a lot in common. I'm just so grateful to all of them for being here and being so supportive. My aunt is also really helping me figure out who I am as an individual. For the first time, I'm in charge of my identity, what I share, and who I share it with. I dyed and cut my hair, got a nickname and have been exclusively going by it. My cousin is currently on a journey to help me learn about what makeup I like. She's also introducing me to her favorite music groups as a self-proclaimed cringe but free K-pop fan. I have an entirely private Instagram account with all of 5 followers, and I plan on keeping it that way. I just feel like a normal teenage girl for once, and I've never felt happier. When I look in the mirror or just think about my life in general, I'm actually happy with it. I guess I never realized that I wasn't comfortable in my identity as a person, because honestly, I had bigger things to worry about. This is all more than I could have ever imagined, and honestly, I have a hard time even processing it sometimes. I'm officially in therapy though, so maybe I can start working that out as well as processing my past and how it plays into my identity in the future. My new therapist is actually the part of the reason I'm making this update. She thinks that posting this could be a good way to get closure to a certain extent, as sort of a way of acknowledging what I went through but also moving on into my new life because I have my whole future ahead of me, one that I'm very excited to experience. So keeping that in mind, this will be my final update on here. I want to be able to enjoy my life and future while keeping my privacy. A lot of people really wanted me to share my story more, expose my past, but at least for now I've decided against that. It's my story and I can choose to share it or not. For once, I have control over who gets to know what information is about me, and I'm not willing to give that up yet. But I suppose I don't know what the future holds, so I'm asking as nicely as possible that people please respect that. I absolutely appreciate the support and advice so many have given me, and just know that I'm safe. I can honestly say that I'm happy. I'm planning out my future, what I want to do with my life, and who I am, besides just a persona on camera. So thank you so much for everything, and goodbye. Onwards and upwards. That's about as good of an update as you could hope. Let's read some final comments. I'm so glad that she didn't give more details. Honestly, the response to "my life is completely open to people online and I have no identity" should not have been "tell us who you are." Good for her for making this leap, and I hope everything stays happy and healthy for her. People absolutely would have started commenting on the videos with "you're abusing your kid, look at this Reddit post where she's talking about leaving." People don't think about the danger they could put someone in with shenanigans like that. I like how the final update has virtually no mention of her parents. They're non-factors now. They're no longer a part of her life, and no longer worth any consideration or discussion. No respect for family influences, lifestyle influences, or mummy influences that exploit their kids. Opie is really friggin' strong to be able to ask for help and get herself out. Thank God she's in therapy. Yeah, agreed, and props to OP for getting out of there. She's free. Anyway guys, that's the end of that story. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Let me know. Otherwise, we're going to move on to another story. Okay, we're moving over on True Off My Chest. This one was written by user Cold Helicopter, and it's titled, I found out the actual reason my mum lost custody of me, and I don't know if I can ever look at her again. I was removed from my mother's care by DCFS when I was 11 years old due to allegations of SA posed against my stepfather. He was convicted of those crimes, but took a plea deal which meant he'd be out by the time I was 13, and from what I can remember, I don't even know that he served those 2 full years anyway. I was his primary victim. I don't remember how old I was when it started, but the earliest he admitted to was when I was 8. I don't know if my mum knew before DCFS got involved, or if she found out afterwards, but now I don't think it would have mattered to her if she was aware. After being put into temporary custody of the state while the legal issues were sorted out, eventually I was placed with a relative and her husband, who later adopted me when it was clear my mother wouldn't be getting me back. My adoptive parents put me in therapy, got me the help I needed, did everything they could to make me feel safe again. Something they never prevented me from was speaking to my mother. I was always able to call or text her, and she was always allowed to come visit me, but I could never go and see her. I didn't really question it as a kid. I assumed it was some stipulation the courts made. I believed growing up that the reason my mum hadn't got me back was because of neglect, I guess. I assumed that the court thought it was partly her fault that I'd been left unattended with that man so often, or that it took someone else noticing I was physically injured for something to be done about it. My adoptive parents never challenged these assumptions I had, and they always told me that they would never stop me from having a relationship with my mum, so long as that's what I wanted. Once I turned 18, my mum and I started talking more frequently, but we didn't see each other in person often. I never really thought much of it at first, but as the years went by, I started questioning the circumstances of my removal and subsequent adoption. I was confused as to why a woman with no prior issues with the law would have had her child taken from her in such a cut and dry way. I decided to ask my adoptive parents about it, and they very gently informed me that my mother was told that in order for her to regain custody of me, her husband, my abuser, would be required to leave the home and could not under any circumstances come near me, not only because he was an offender, but because I was the victim. My mother evidently could not meet these conditions, and so I was adopted by my relatives. When I worked up the courage to ask my mum if it was true, she didn't deny it. She told me she loved him, that he was a good man who made a mistake, They said that she could have her daughter or she could stay with her husband, and so she chose him. She picked him over me. I don't even know what to do with the things I'm feeling now. I feel sick just thinking about it. She's my mother, and she knew what he did. He was convicted of sexually abusing her 11-year-old child, and she refused to leave him. For the past 12 years, she has willingly slept in a bed next to the man that assaulted her daughter. She has stayed married to the man who hurt me. My adoptive parents said they were advised by the therapist to let me figure it out in my own time, as my mother, despite picking that man over me, never made any move to have me near him again. She just wasn't willing to make him leave so that I could be with her. Evidently, the therapist thought it would be more detrimental in the long run to keep me from communicating with my mother entirely. None of that makes me feel better. The past 2 days have felt like a nightmare. I don't understand how she could stay with him. I don't understand why she chose a monster over her child. I'm trying to understand why my adoptive parents didn't tell me, but to be honest, I don't really understand their reasoning either. My mum has been texting me, but I haven't answered. I can't even think about her without feeling nauseous or so angry I want to cry, or both. My adoptive parents keep checking in on me, but I've only answered the phone for them because I don't want them to drive here out of concern. I really don't even know what to do anymore. Edit, I said this in a comment, but I thought I'd clarify here too. I'm not necessarily mad at my parents, I'm just overwhelmed with the reality of this situation. I don't know how I feel, but I know I need time to feel it. I'm still in therapy, which is related to the abuse I experienced, so I do have a professional to rely on for guidance if I need it. And I don't think I'll ever be able to speak to my mother again. I can't get past this to forgive her or understand her reasoning, and I'm not sure I'll ever want to try. Wow, yeah, honestly, I don't blame OP. Imagine discovering that after talking with them for so long as well. It just seems crazy that the mother wouldn't, break up with this guy. Like, honestly, where's the line? Let's go to the comments. Your adoptive parents consulted with medical professionals on how to deal with this. They took that advice because they didn't want to cause you more harm and because they love you. They were putting you first because you were their priority over their own feelings. How do I know that? Because I had a family member in a similar situation. It ripped them to pieces every time their child had contact with the parent that refused to protect them, knowing that child was being harmed repeatedly. Everything your adoptive parents did, they did out of love for you, no matter how hard it was on them. I will be honest, I don't understand people like your mother. Children should be protected at all costs. At the very least, you need time and distance from her. You may be able to forgive her, but don't trust her. If it were me, that relationship would be over. If you're not in counselling still, then please find counselling. This is a horrendous thing to deal with, and just too hard for a person to do on their own. Send in good thoughts and wishes for your healing. Opie replies, Thank you, I really appreciate this perspective. I know they made choices for me based on what they thought would help me the most in the end. This is just such an, insane thing to try and process. I feel like I'm kind of losing it. I don't understand my mother either. I don't know how she's able to sleep at night knowing the things that man did. I can't wrap my mind around it. I do have a therapy appointment coming up soon, unrelated to this specific part of my situation, so I'm going to have professional help in dealing with this. I'm just feeling really lost and overwhelmed right now. One of the most disturbing things is that your mum calls her husband's sexually assaulting you for years since you were 8 years old a mistake. Her husband made a mistake, and that's a profound level of delusional belief because it was his decision to assault you for years and only stopped because the authorities were involved. Sexual assault is not a mistake, it's a planned, premeditated decision. Opie replies, I haven't been able to stop thinking about that part. The way she called it a mistake, said that he's a good man. She dismissed it as though he didn't make a conscious choice to go into my bedroom every night for 3+ years like it was an accident or somehow unintentional. The good man she's married to is a predator who will be on the registry for the rest of his life for the things he did to me. I assumed my mother would have loved me enough to at least acknowledge the severity of what my stepfather had done. Evidently, I was wrong. I understand how you feel about your bio mother, although our situations were different in many ways. About your adoptive parents, if it's any consolation, think about how hard it feels to deal with this. Do you think your younger self had the tools to healthily process this? I understand they might have been afraid of you developing issues while you were still at a critical age. Imagine you understood it was wrong. Kids tend to blame themselves. You might have thought it was something about you that made her choose him. Imagine you didn't understand it was wrong, or worse, normalized it. Is that the idea of love you would like to have nowadays? Would you like to have grown under that weight? Your adoptive parents made a difficult choice in a situation in which you would always lose. It is difficult to know what the best course of action was, but I think they've proven they love you. You are worthy of love, of being chosen, regardless of the amount of DNA you share or not share. That's the start. Yeah, good sentiment there, I think. Okay, Opie updates 5 days later. Hello, I guess I wanted to write a little bit of an update. I didn't expect that many people to see the post. Honestly, I just needed to vent, and I didn't want to dump any of that on my friends or family. I had a therapy session earlier in the week, so I was able to bring this revelation up to my therapist, and we're going to work on ways to help me through processing this. That's obviously something that's going to take time, but I'm sure eventually I'll find a way to live with it, I guess. Right now, I still don't know how to unpack any of the feelings I have about this. I do understand why my adoptive parents went about it the way they did. In the moment, being given that information was just a lot to comprehend and deal with, and I felt betrayed. Not necessarily by them, but I think I did put some of those feelings onto them. That wasn't really fair, and I did try to apologize, but they aren't upset with me for it, and they felt I didn't have anything to be sorry for. They know firsthand how difficult this is for me, and they told me they were already expecting the reaction I had. My adoptive mum said that if she'd been in my shoes, she would have been upset too, even if that feeling wasn't entirely directed at the right people. I did speak to them about how I felt, and I asked if they could tell me a little more about why they decided to handle it the way they did. They said that when they got custody of me and saw all the ways the trauma from my earlier childhood manifested, they wanted to do everything to make sure I would be able to grow up as cared for and well-adjusted as possible. When the therapist encouraged them not to tell me the truth or challenge my belief that I'd been removed from my mum because of neglect, they followed that advice. The doctors and my parents thought it best for me to realize and understand my mother's choice on my own. They said that I'd already been failed by so many adults in my life that were supposed to protect me, and that they didn't want to add to that list. My adoptive dad also mentioned wanting me to be able to enjoy at least part of my childhood without something like that revelation hanging over my head, which, looking back at all of it, I really appreciate. I don't remember much of my childhood up until I was put into my adoptive parents' custody, and what I can remember isn't great, but the childhood they gave me made up for that in spades. I know the choices my adoptive parents made for me were made with my best interest in mind. I love them, and I know everything they did was out of love for me too. I feel like people misinterpreted what I was saying in my last post about my feelings towards them, so I just wanted to clarify that part of it. Regarding my mother, I essentially told her that I wasn't interested in speaking again, given everything I know now. I don't know how she took it because I've since blocked her number. My parents have agreed to reiterate that message for me if she contacts them, but I don't think she will. I'm never reaching out to her again. I can't do it. I think part of me is always going to be wondering why she did the things she did, but based on all the answers she's given to my questions so far, I'm not sure her honesty would be very helpful to me in the long run. Thank you for your words of encouragement and kindness. I really needed them in that moment, and I truly appreciate you all for it. And some final comments. Proud of you. I'm glad everything worked out. Keep your mum out of your life. Wow, you are strong, and your adoptive parents are great people. They did it out of love and what other experts thought was the right decision. Your biological mum doesn't seem like a good person. Yeah, I think at least that much is pretty clear. It just defies logic how someone can stay with a person like that. I suppose I'll never understand, and honestly, I don't think I want to. Anyway guys, we're going to leave that story there. I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments. Otherwise, we're moving on again. Okay, this next one was posted on Am I the A-hole? It was written by a throwaway account, and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for flirting with 19-year-old girls and defending myself when being called a predator? I'm 31 and recently ended a long-term relationship. I was broken. I recently went to this cool restaurant and bar downtown with one of my buddies to have a good time. Anyone of any age can come in. While we were there was a girl who was celebrating her 19th birthday. They sang happy birthday and they were allowed an outside cake with a 19 on it. The birthday girl was pretty, so I wanted to go chat her up. Her friends were super cute too. My buddy told me to leave them alone and that they looked like babies. He didn't want to go over at first, but since the breakup, every other woman but my ex has been invisible, so he went to wingman with me. We walked over and wished her a happy birthday. I thought things were going well and the women were laughing. Then all of a sudden, one of the girls snaps at me to take a frickin' hint, R. Kelly. I was taken aback and just said, "Excuse me?" She said to read the room and that they were uncomfortable. Another asked us to go away. I was going to go, but I was really bothered by the R. Kelly comment. I said it's messed up to call me a predator when we're all adults here. My buddy wanted to leave, but I stood my ground. The birthday woman said that it didn't matter. It's weird for someone my age to hit on them, especially when they make it obvious that they're uncomfortable. Then made another R. Kelly comment by asking if she looked like Aaliyah to me, which upset me again. I apologized for making them uncomfortable, but that didn't give them the right to call me a predator. One of the women said it was a personal problem. I said that adults are allowed to hit on the adults. It's not a crime. One woman just asked why I was still standing there and yelled at me to go away. I was ticked off, and when I left, their entire table was singing Remix to Ignition and laughing their asses off. I was furious and humiliated. When we sat back down, I was seething. My buddy said that it was my fault for not seeing the signs that they were uncomfortable. To him, it was obvious, so he wanted to go. He called me delusional. I pointed out that they were laughing, and he said it was just uncomfortable laughter. I told him I had every right to be mad about being called a predator when they were all 18 and 19. It's a horrible accusation to make. My ex was 6 years older than me. He said that they weren't calling me a predator, just weird for going for teens. He said it was wrong of them to sing after me and that was bullying, but I should have left long before that. I felt like he should have stuck up for me. Was I wrong for sticking up for me or for hitting on them in the first place? I was respectful and not creepy at all too. Edit, for the record, I do date women my age and older. This was the first time I approached much younger women. Okay, I'm a man and I've done the whole thing at bars and dating and all that stuff. One thing that pisses me off the most when I go out is the fact that so many guys just can't take a hint. Either they don't want to or they're just completely delusional. I like to think that many guys aren't that socially inept, but man, you just see it so often. And even if this guy didn't see the signs early on, he should have just walked away and left it at that. And honestly, I don't know about you guys, but I don't know a single 19-year-old that would like a 30-year-old to come and hit on them, particularly at a birthday party. Like, there's nothing wrong with being 30, but no one in their right mind approaches a 19-year-old group of girls and expects good outcomes. If a girl at a bar is interested in you, like truly interested in you, they'll make it pretty obvious. Otherwise, leave it alone. Let's go to the comments. You're the a-hole for being creepy, not taking a hint, and arguing about it to women who asked you to leave. You were upset about being called a predator, but don't seem to care that your inappropriate behavior made a group of women in public feel uncomfortable. Typical nice guy. The table singing Remix to Ignition was also hilarious in how badly it ticked off OP. He is extra the a-hole for standing his ground when they asked him to leave. What did he think would happen? They would admire his persistence and realize they were wrong all along and he was actually a nice guy who they should all sleep with? Or would they all look sheepish and he could leave like a boss having owned all those women? Then the entire restaurant would clap. And all the women would throw their knickers at the clear alpha male. You're the a-hole. The fact that both the girls and your friend easily recognized that it was creepy to hit on her should tell you that it wasn't okay. The rare moment that an Am I the A-hole post turns out to be the a-hole, praise be. You're the a-hole. You're 31 hitting on a 19-year-old and you can't confirm how old the other girls were, probably around 17, 18 and 19. That's very creepy, and you made them uncomfortable and then didn't take a hint, then got mad when they had to be mean to you for you to go away, and you still didn't go away. This is predatory behavior, and I'm not really sure what you thought was going to happen. Alrighty folks, now one of the young women in the group at the restaurant found the post and made one. I've never had a Reddit account before, but my journalism TA showed us it, and sometimes I'll just check the front page for news. Earlier, I saw a post up there that basically described my birthday dinner like 3 weeks ago. At first I didn't give an F, but now I just felt the need to clarify a few things, even though I know most people called him an a-hole. Some people got aggy about the R. Kelly comment and singing Ignition. Was it mean? Yes, but I'm done being nice to creeps. This was not a bar. It was a bar and grill, but it was mainly a restaurant that just happened to serve drinks. We were sitting near a family, so we weren't in a setting where people go to get hit on. We were minding our business and aka-ing in the corner booth. I don't know what the hell that means. He came and wished me a happy birthday. I said thanks and we all went back to our conversation. I did appreciate being told happy birthday, but he stuck around. We laughed uncomfortably and went back to our conversation. He stuck around and kept interrogating us. Each time he said something, we nodded and then turned our backs to him. We said, "Thank you, bye," a few times, but he was still standing there talking to us. His friend kept finding excuses to leave. I was annoyed, uncomfortable, and disgusted, but I gave him a respectful, "Okay, have a good night, here's some cake for home, bye." But he grabbed the cake and sat down in our booth. He said, "The night's not over yet." Then my friend just snapped, and if she didn't, I was going to. When she called him R. Kelly, she wasn't accusing him of being a pedo, but a creep. 30-year-old guys who hit on us are creepy and disgust us, point blank, period. We were nice the entire time, and I even gave them a million hints and cake for the road. His friend was even finding reasons for them to leave. Then he had the audacity to stand there and fight us on it. I told him that he was way too old for us and it was creepy from the start. When he left, we started singing Ignition amongst ourselves, not singing it after him. It's a throwback that our parents put us on. Instead of crying over our night being ruined by a creep, we turned it into a fun moment with karaoke. P.S. When he asked us our age and gave us his, we became a million times more uncomfortable. Guy was 30 trying to get with 18-year-olds at a birthday dinner. We're used to old men bothering us and it's always gross. To the if he wasn't ugly crowd, he was a decent-looking, fit guy. If I'd never met him, I'd set him up with my aunt, but he was in his 30s and that's way too old. This isn't porn, and I haven't met a single girl desperate for 30-year-old divorced dick. Being called illegal is demeaning. Everything about it was sickening. When he came over, announced his age, then asked us ours, I almost yacked. It was like he was IDing us at a family restaurant. F out of here. I'm tired of having to be polite to guys who are creepy and disrespectful. Edit, 30-year-olds aren't gross by being 30. Everyone gets older. 30-year-olds who bother you to flirt during the birthday dinner are. I really appreciate the support, but please don't spend your money on gold for me. That's not why I posted, but I do appreciate. Wow, there you go. I didn't think this guy could look any worse after the first post, but he does. Let's go to some final comments. Oh my god, I literally thought they were at a club the way he was describing the situation, but they were basically at a family restaurant and he's scooching himself into the bench saying, "The night's not over yet," to a bunch of teenagers, which is absolutely psychotic. Right? His version had me picturing them in a bar, standing around tables, loud music, etc. The update has me like, "Sir, this is an Applebee's." I love how the cool restaurant or bar is essentially an Outback Steakhouse, Lamau. Saying bye is not a hint. This isn't a case of the original OP failing to pick up on subtle social cues. He was explicitly told to go away and just ignored it. Even if the age gap is the main reason why the girls weren't interested, I bet they'd consider an 18-year-old who acted that creepy way too. "Legally, I'm allowed to hit on you" is one of the craziest pickup lines I've ever heard. How do you imagine that one's playing out, OP? Right? Gotta love when just slightly older than a sex crime is the target these guys strive for. I really want to be one of those "this didn't happen" people, but I was 18 once and bullcrap like this happened super frequently when my girlfriends and I went out. Always old guys invited themselves to our table weirdly frequently. Yup, I don't think I actually know a woman that this hasn't happened in some way too. Not exactly in a family restaurant, lol, but happened to me when I was out for New Year's partying with my high school friends, our first year back from college, so we're all like 18 or 19. A gaggle of creepy dudes started trying to grind on and dance with me, and I was so scared I clung to one of the boys in my group and buried my face in his shoulder until they left. I was terrified and didn't even want to look at them after they'd tried to literally surround me. My friends were furious. It was a mixed group of girls and guys, but I think they all ran those dudes off because I was near tears, lol. And they were way older than us, like obviously so. Creepy older dudes will invite themselves anywhere, as long as there's girls young enough to manipulate present. It's a sad truth, and it just makes me mad to think about. What about you guys? Maybe you got a similar story you'd like to share. Either way, that's it from me today. I hope you guys enjoyed those stories. Thanks for making it to the end, and I'll see you all in the next video. Have a good day. Cheers.